Alright, Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Harakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to all the hopeful elect brothers that's doing the will of the Lord in sincerity and in truth. And now, this is just an update on what's going on with the U.S. and Israel versus Iran war. Iran is not accepting any negotiations. They said Trump's sent the 15-point plan to negotiate to try to stop the war because they wanna get through the Strait of Hormuz because of the oil and the fuel and also the fertilizer. But Iran is allowing certain countries to pass through. But now Trump is considering to send 10,000 more troops to the Middle East. This is from 13 hours ago. But all of this is prophecy because we're in the beginning stages of World War III. And the Lord eventually will gather all nations there. Nations with military might, of course. Nations that have an army, that could actually fight in a war, to go in the Middle East to fight there. And that's gonna be the last world war. And the war is gonna end with a nuclear war. And America and America and Amalek is gonna lose because those two countries, Babylon the Great and Babylon the Great and the land of Israel, the Lord is going to allow countries like Russia to completely destroy them using ICBMs. Now, I'm gonna get a scripture first and then play the video and then get this article from Axios dealing with the topic of Trump sending or considering to send more troops into the Middle East, which they're not coming back. They're not coming back. This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So the Lord is right now gathering the nations there in the Middle East. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Yehoshaphat. The valley of Yehoshaphat in the Hebrew, I already said it in the Hebrew, Salakia, but in the Hebrew, Jehoshaphat is Yehoshaphat, meaning the Most High's judgment or the Most High's decision. And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. Yeah, because the Most High is doing this, really for us. Because let me go to Lamentations 4 and 21, 4 and 22. Because we already served our punishment. Our punishment is almost up. So since our punishment, will be up soon, the Lord is going to send his son Yahweh Shai, along with the angels to deliver the elect of his people, Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And then uh, simultaneously, while Yahweh Shai is beaming up the elect from the four corners of the earth, but mainly from the New Egypt, mainly from Babylon the Great, which is the U.S. This place is going to be hit with ICBMs, turning it into a lake of fire from a bird's eye view, which the elect is going to view it while they're in the chariots, looking down upon Babylon burning. It's going to look like an actual lake of fire because there's going to be so much fire. The ICBMs and also lasers from the chariots is going to hit this place. This is Lamentations 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom. The Edomites are so-called Caucasians, the so-called white man, the ones that's in power today, starting with the elite banking families. And then you have the world leaders, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. So that cup is talking about what we had to go through as a people. All the curses, slavery, being oppressed, being murdered by the hundreds of thousands and millions by Esau, by Edom. That same thing is going to happen to them. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. So the Lord is going to give them so much, of the cup, of what's in the cup, that they're going to be drunken with it. What they did to us, they're going to have to deal with in the kingdom, double. And more than double. So honestly, I can't imagine, because the elect is going to have spiritual powers. So we're going to torture them in ways that only in that time when it comes, once we get those new bodies, the torture method is going to be different. But there's also not going to be any, wickedness, any abominable acts that they did to us, like buck breaking. We're not going to do any of that, and we're not going to commit adultery with their woman. No, we're not going to do that. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished. So we sinned against the Lord, Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, and he punished us. He put us through slavery using the so-called white man. And also you have to remember, before that, you had the so-called Arab slave trade, in which the Ishmaelites had us in slavery too. So they have to pay. But the main one is Esau Edom. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished. So the Lord used Esau Edom to punish us, severely punish us, even until now. O daughter of Zion. Daughter of Zion is talking about the Israelites, the Lord's chosen people. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom, and he will discover thy sins. So when the elect is beamed up and delivered, when we get those new bodies, we're never going to sin. We're never going to go off. So the Lord is going to have no reason for us to go into captivity. We're going to be gods on earth. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom, the Edomite, so-called white man. He will discover thy sins. And you want to know why it's saying that? Because truly only the Israelites can sin, because only we're given the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, right? And only the Israelites made a covenant with the Most High, and we agreed to it. But we kept on breaking it, so the Lord, kept on punishing us, and the Lord eventually took our nationality away from us. But now we're waking up to the truth. Now our brothers in the truth know the name of the Lord. We know that Yahweh Shai is coming back to deliver us, and we know why we went into captivity. He will carry Salakia. He will no more carry thee away into captivity, so no more slavery after this. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. Yes, so only the nation of Israel was given, covenant or contract or agreement with the Most High. So only we could sin, but the Edomites took upon themselves our laws. They did an identity theft. They claimed themselves to be the Israelites. Right now in the land, they're trying to get rid of the Palestinians. For the Greater Israel Project, because they see them as being Edomites. They see them as being Amalekites. But they're actually Edomites, and they're proclaiming themselves to be, the children of the Lord. But they're going all the way off because they're not actually following the laws. They're following the Kabbalah and the Talmud. And for example, J.E. of the J.E. files, if you know what I mean, that's him. The files coming out. They're worshiping Satan. They're sacrificing unto Satan. So they took upon themselves as being the children of the Lord, but they're worshiping Satan. So they're going to get judged for that too. So the Lord is going to use these nations to destroy each other. Joel 3. And 2, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yehoshaphat, it's talking about the Middle East, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. And how is the Lord going to plead? He's going to plead by destroying them. That's how he's going to plead. Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So we were scattered to the four corners of the earth. During the transatlantic slave trade, you actually had Native Americans that was sent to Europe, and you had Jakes from the west coast of Africa and Europe that was scattered here over to the Americas, and also all over the world, and parted my land. Yeah, because they stole that land, of Israel, and now they're still in it.
President Donald Trump is reportedly considering deploying 10,000 additional U.S. troops to the Middle East to
So the Lord is going to send the nations there to fight in the last battle, the last world war. He's going to use Edomites to destroy Edomites, because you have to remember the Russians are still Edomites, and also China and Iran and the allies of America that's currently turning against them. Those that have nuclear capabilities is going to completely wash the U.S., turning into a lake of fire. There's going to be so much ICBMs to hit this place. And that's what's going on right now. Prophecy. This is prophecy.
ban military options against Iran following a devastating air campaign.
I say they're lousy fighters, but they're great negotiators.
Yeah, because they're not negotiating. They're like, no, because Esau will say, hey, we're doing a ceasefire, and then they'll attack anyways, because he's a liar, he's a devil, he's a deceiver.
proposed deployment would build on the 5,000 Marines and thousands of 82nd Airborne paratroopers already in the region, signaling a potential limited ground operation on Iranian soil, such as Karg Island or sites securing the Strait of Hormuz. Analysts say ground forces would be needed to seize key locations and counter Iran's blockade of the strait and drone attacks on Gulf oil infrastructure.
Yeah, so they want to force themselves through. They want to force themselves through the Strait of Hormuz because none of the oil, nor the fuel, the fertilizer is passing through, and these nations are actually feeling it. But Iran is allowing certain nations to pass through certain of their ships, but for the U.S., no, and it's going to cause an energy crisis, fuel shortage, and also a famine.
The Pentagon declined to comment, while the White House stressed Trump has all military options available. He's given Iran 10 more days for negotiations before possible strikes on power plants.
All right. Joel 3:9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. The Gentiles are the heathen nations. So you have the nation of Israel, which is the chosen, right? The chosen people of the Lord, the children of the Lord. And then you have the rest of the nations, which are heathens. They're the Gentiles. And then you also have Israelites, that are also Gentiles because they started following the customs of the heathens, and they forgot their nationality. So they're also considered Gentiles. So anywhere in the scriptures where it says, the Gentiles are going to be saved, it's talking about Israelites, not heathens. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. And that's what's going on right now. He's considering to send 10,000 more troops. That's the mighty men and the men of war that's going into the Middle East. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So the plowshares into swords and the pruning hooks into spears is talking about, okay, so the plowshares and the pruning hooks, they're farming instruments. So these nations are beating the farming instruments into weapons of war, and that's going into them using the money that should be going on that should go towards the welfare of the people, like healthcare, food assistance, all of that's going towards war. All of that funding is being shifted towards war. More weapons, more ammunitions, more fighter jets, more missile defense systems. Let the weak say I am strong. So these weaker nations, that didn't have nuclear capability and high technology, now they have it. Now the U.S. can't bully these nations anymore. Verse 11, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. And the mighty ones of the Lord are the angels. So the Lord is gathering all the heathen there in the Middle East. And for all the Israelites that are already in the military and ones that signed up to go in the military, that's it. You're doomed. There's no coming back. You're not coming back. And there's going to be a draft soon. Joel 3:12. Let the heathen be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So the Lord is going to judge them. He's going to destroy them. They're going to destroy each other. They're going to have a war. But when the Lord comes back with the angels, when Yahushua comes back with the angels from heaven, that the heathens are going to stop what they're doing and going to join together, in an array to fight against the Lord and the angels in the air. That's the war in heaven, but they're going to lose miserably, you know? And before I read this, let me see, what nations currently have all right. I typed in what nations currently have nuclear weapons that didn't have before. Let the weak say I'm strong. So it says North Korea. North Korea is the most recent country to develop nuclear weapons, conducting its first test in 2006. After previously withdrawing from the Non-Proliferation Treaty, that's dealing with the control of who can get the ingredients to make nuclear weapons, and also the control of uranium and who can use nuclear weapons and all that. Other nations that developed nuclear weapons after the initial five, and that's U.S., Russia, UK, France, China, include India 1974, Pakistan 1998, and Israel, believed since 1967. Key developments in nuclear possession: North Korea 2006, India and Pakistan 1998, Israel 1967. Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan possessed Soviet weapons, and upon Soviet Union's collapse, surrendering them to Russia. Says, okay, other nations. Iran is often cited for high-level uranium enrichment, although the U.S. has not concluded they are currently pursuing a weapon, which we could see that they have missiles, but the Lord is going to allow them to actually develop ICBMs. The Lord is going to have these nations shoot missiles from one side of the world all the way to the other side of the world, from Russia, China, Iran, all the way to the U.S. And there's gonna be an ICBM. It's not gonna be a regular missile. So let the weak say I am strong. List of states. Okay, so it says right here, world's nine nuclear armed states are United States 1945, United Kingdom, France, China 1964, India, North Korea. States believed to possess. And that's the end of it. Wait, let me see if I could get some of this. If there's any good info in this. This is Axios. Pentagon weighs sending 10,000 more combat troops to the Middle East. The White House and the Pentagon are considering sending at least 10,000 additional combat troops to the Middle East in the coming days, according to a senior U.S. defense official. Hey, once they run out of troops to send, that's a draft right there, and women will be included. Because these other nations are doing conscriptions, which is a draft, which is a fancy name for a draft. So it's going to happen here too. Why it matters: if the Trump administration decides to send extra troops, it will significantly increase the number of combat soldiers the U.S. has in the region. it is another signal that a U.S. ground operation in Iran is being seriously prepared. So boots on the ground. So to where they're gonna actually send in troops there, because there's two countries that don't have a central bank, and that's Cuba and Iran, and they desperately want it there for the NWO. The massive surge in ground troops is being considered as President Trump says the U.S. is negotiating with Iran on a deal to end the war, which is not going to happen. And even if some way it dies down, remember, these nations have to build back up their arsenal. They have to build, they have to manufacture and create more ammunitions. You know, a lot of countries are actually considering to build their own nuclear weapons. One of them is Poland, you know, because the prophecy is 200,000 missiles going to hit this place. You have ICBMs, and then you also have the warheads. The munitions is going to spread from it. So 200,000 is going to hit this place, Babylon the Great. Iranian officials haven't yet agreed to hold a high-level meeting with the U.S. They are suspicious that the U.S. diplomatic push is another trick, yeah, because Esau is the devil. He's a deceiver. He's a liar. And it's one of the tactics that he used, deception, in order to get someone. You know, they lie to you to get your guards down, and then they get you. For example, there was once a ceasefire that Israel claimed that they were going to hold with the Palestinians, and then right after, they started to bomb them again and murder them. The Pentagon is developing military options for a final blow in Iran that could include the use of ground forces and a massive bombing campaign, Axios reported. You know what? It says more reinforcements, including several fighter jet squadrons and thousands of troops, are expected to arrive in the Middle East in the coming days and weeks. Let me read that again. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. They're preparing for World War III right now. The U.S. versus Israel and Iran is the beginning. We're in World War III, actually, to be honest. Wake up the mighty men. That's all the soldiers. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. So the armies, the Marines, you know, the troops. Let me get that in another comparison, and then I'm going to end the lesson. This is CSB version. Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare for holy war. Rouse the warriors. Rouse means to rise up. Let all the men of war advance and attack. NLT. Say to the nations far and wide, get ready for war. Call out your best warriors. Let all your fighting men advance for attack. AMP. Proclaim this among the pagan nations. Because all these heathens, they don't worship the Lord. You know, they worship their idols and their false gods and Satan. Prepare a war, stir up the mighty men, let all the men of war come near, let them come up. And that's what's happening right now. You know, I don't need to say any more, but we're going to sound like a broken record because it's prophecy coming to pass. This is Joel. This is the book of Joel coming to pass right now. And it's going to, and the message will be a broken record until the Lord draws the prophets, you know, from the streets and from the virtual streets, the internet, and there'll be a famine of hearing of the word of the Lord. And that's it. That's the end of the lesson. Lord will is edifying. All praises, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Harakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders. Salakia. All praises, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Harakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.